Now, Tom Keeley is a newspaper man, he's a radio man, he is a television man, he works out of New York City, and he's joined us, I'm glad to say, over the air, over the Atlantic, here on the mother of all talk shows. Tom, welcome.
Thank you very much, George, for having me.
You're welcome. Now, I was explaining to the listeners, Tom, that I have always rejected the conspiracy theories around 9/11. I reject most of them still. But you placed the germ of doubt in my mind. You were the only person in a conversation, sitting on a stoop with a cup of coffee in a New York afternoon, who ever placed any doubts in my mind about this question. Would you summarize for the audience, which I can assure you is waiting with bated breath, because I've got a lot of conspiracy theory listeners, summarize what your doubts are around the official story about this operation on 9/11?
Well, I'd be happy to, George, and thank you for allowing me to make this presentation. First of all, I was listening just before the break, George, and you were talking about the who part of what happened on 9/11, the hijackers, okay? But before we discuss the who, we need to thoroughly understand the what in fact happened, okay? And I focus on the Twin Towers and their collapse, Building 7, which was about a football field away from there, which also collapsed without having been struck by any of the aircraft, and then also what happened at the Pentagon. So I'm focusing on that part of the what, and I'm afraid that part of the what is very poorly understood if you apply, if you take the emotion out of the situation and you apply science and you apply logic to it. And after you have an understanding of the what happened, which I think we still need much more thorough investigation, then you can begin to get a better picture of all of the various who that were involved. Now, you single out the hijackers, and I'm sure that they were involved. But to the extent that they were involved, or were they acting alone, I'm not sure. Now, having said that, I'd like to also say that since there was more than one person involved, by definition, it was a conspiracy, okay? And since no one's ever been brought to justice, since there's never been a real thorough accounting of the conspirators and what they've done, even the official story, therefore, is a conspiracy theory.
I take that point.
Okay, so but in and of itself, we must be talking in this sense of theorizing about the conspiracy. But again, let's talk about the what before we talk about the who. Never in history have steel frame buildings collapsed from a fire. It's just never happened before. And yet, on that fateful day, and I can tell your listeners I was there, I worked about 6 blocks south of the World Trade Center. I was out on the street when the first tower collapsed. I was only about 3 blocks south of it. I was walking there to be directly under it to take photographs, and I was engulfed by the debris that came flying down the street. I could not make it inside in time. I didn't know if I was going to live or die for a few moments. So this is a bit personal as well in that sense. But in any case, these buildings, never before have buildings like that just utterly collapsed from fire, as we're given the explanation. In fact, the World Trade Center towers were designed to withstand multiple 747 strikes, the aircraft at the time, which was the typical large commercial airliner. The designers of the building made it to withstand those strikes. So how is it then that these things come down so efficiently, so quickly? Well, that's a difficult question to ascertain, because we have very shady science on the subject when it comes to Building 7, which, you'll be surprised if you ask. Not many, I shouldn't say, there are still many people who don't realize 3 buildings collapsed that day in New York City. The 2 that were struck by the aircraft, and then this Building 7, which was about, like I say, a football field away. How is it that something that's never happened before in history happened 3 times in one day and hasn't ever happened since? There's many questions that flow from that. One of them, for instance, it's going on 8 years now to my knowledge, the building codes haven't changed.
The building codes in the United States haven't changed, even though these 3 buildings collapsed under the present standards.
George, even though we've been shown, if we believe the official version, that everything we've known about engineering and steel frame construction is wrong, hundreds of years worth of knowledge that's been built up in Western civilization, that our engineers don't know what they're talking about when they design something to withstand something like this. When a simple office fire in Building 7 can make a 43-story building collapse, okay, one would think that would be man bites dog news, and we would say, oh my goodness, we must go back to the drawing board and reevaluate. Well, not only have we not done that, in a small instance, the National Institute for Science and Technology, NIST, who is responsible in this country for coming up with the explanation on how these buildings came down, made some recommendations on how to improve construction. I don't think they were very major. They made some recommendations, and yet another branch of our government shot them down and said, no, they're not necessary. So here we're being told that everything we've known about construction is wrong, that steel frame buildings, which have been known to withstand, been engulfed in flames for 24 hours in some cases and never fell down. In one day, 3 of them come down. Well, these kinds of issues...
Well, let's hold it for a minute, Tom. There's a lot more, I know, to discuss, a lot more to your theories than this.